I would like to invite Mayor Finizio, Daryl Finizio of the great city of London. I am a little bit nervous. Of New London to come to the podium with some welcoming remarks for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd, for that introduction, and thank you and Barbara for Union Station's strong support for this project. Today would not be possible without both of you. Thank you also for your work to restore this magnificent building. It has been an act of service to our city, and all New Londoners thank you both. Thank you also, Mr. Coleman, Governor Malloy, Admiral Papp, for your strong partnership on this project, and to Senators Blumenthal, Murphy, Congressman Courtney, members of the Museum Board, elected officials, and distinguished guests. It's my honor to welcome you all here to the City of New London and to this ceremony. Many New Londoners have been involved in this effort for many years, but in the last 2 years, during a flurry of activity and not just a little bit of hard work and heavy lifting, the City of New London has been represented by a project manager who has gone above and beyond the call of duty to move this project forward and keep the city side of this project on track. Today, I want to give special recognition to that person, without whom I believe we would not be here, our City Development Director, Tammy Doherty. Thank you, Tammy, for your service to our city. When this museum location was announced, first in a joint statement in 2012, then in an announcement and unveiling last year in 2013, there were some who, with New England skepticism, asked, is it actually going to happen? If today's ceremony speaks to anything, it says loudly and clearly, this is happening. The National Coast Guard Museum is coming to the City of New London, and this institution will enshrine the history of the Coast Guard and of our nation. And in that historic vein, I am reminded today of another historic New Englander, John Adams. Adams was the floor manager and lead speaker in support of the Continental Congress's Declaration of Independence. After the vote to pass the resolution, the memorandum of agreement, you might call it, among our founding fathers, the endeavor was met with earnest skepticism by many of Adams' colleagues and contemporaries. He answered that skepticism in a letter he wrote to his wife Abigail, in which he wrote, and I quote, "Through all the gloom, I can see the rays of ravishing light and glory." John Adams had a vision, and he had the disciplined initiative to seize the opportunity to turn that vision into a reality. When this museum opens its doors, let no one here forget that while many will share in the glory of that day, it would never be possible without the vision and commitment of the Commandant of the United States Coast Guard, Admiral Robert Papp. This museum will be a legacy to your service, and thank you, sir, for your service to the Coast Guard, our country, and in your selection of this site for your service to New London. Governor Malloy, Mr. Coleman, Admiral Papp, it will be my honor on behalf of the people of the City of New London to sign this document and to commit our city's full effort and energy to this project. The time has come to move this forward, and simply put, to get it done. At long last, it is happening. Thank you very much.
You know, I personally feel the signing of the MOA is kind of like the keel laying of a ship. It's not sufficient, but it's necessary to get this thing going. And in a couple of years, we're going to have the new Coast Guard Vessel Museum home ported in New London right outside here. And it's going to have a crew of 1 million members every year come through its decks. And we're going to have some exciting journeys on this Coast Guard Vessel Museum as we visit the Coast Guard's maritime heritage and its present activities and its great potential for the future, necessity for the future. We're also fortunate here today to have with us Senator Blumenthal, and I would like to, our senior senator, and I would like to invite him to the podium for some comments, remarks if he wishes.
Thank you, Todd. No reason to be nervous today. Just a few admirals and generals, and let me just begin by asking, as a matter of fact, all of our veterans or active duty members of our armed services, please raise your hands so that we can acknowledge and thank you for your service. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Admiral Stowes for her leadership at the Academy, and certainly Admiral Papp, thank you for your extraordinary courage and foresight, not only in this museum, but leading the Coast Guard. Thank you to the governor for his commitment, and to, maybe most important, Jimmy Coleman, who is at the forefront of this effort. Thank you for your continued service to our nation. You know, I asked my staff about this agreement. I said, what does it commit the state and the city and the Coast Guard to actually do? And they said, Senator, you're not a lawyer anymore. Don't worry about that stuff. And, the federal government is not committed by this agreement to provide any specific amount of money or any particular action. But I want to pledge to you, because we have a big challenge ahead, that we are going to fight for the funding that the federal government should provide to support this great museum. And the reason is very simple and self-evident. This museum is not only about the Coast Guard. It's not only about New London and the state of Connecticut. It's about our nation, about the missions that the Coast Guard has performed so nobly and ably over so many years, saving lives at sea, protecting our national security, safeguarding our commerce, all of it, all of those many missions that it continues to do today, and new missions that are added every day. I don't want to interrupt in case any of you have to catch that train. I actually thought maybe we would get some work done on Metro North today, Governor, so...
We're keeping the economy going with these trains, so that's what's important to us.
That's a very unsettled sign that I've overused my time. We're given a lot more respect in the Senate. I don't know what's happening. Okay. In conclusion, I really want to thank all of you, because you are the ones who are going to get it done. You're the supporters, the activists. We have a lot of state and local officials here today. All of us working together are going to make it happen. All of us have a stake in this great enterprise. The mayor has quoted John Adams. You remember what Ben Franklin said on that same occasion. We will hang together or we'll hang separately. In this enterprise, we have to hang together. We have to do it together, get it done. That's the way to do it. And just to show you that we have a really effective leader heading this enterprise, Admiral Papp has one of the unique distinctions in our armed Services. I am on the Armed Services Committee. He actually has a budget for 2014 that exceeded the president's request. Now, that ain't done often in Washington these days, as my colleague and great friend Joe Courtney knows well. So I think we are on a very promising path. Thank you for helping to make it happen and making me proud to represent Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, for that slightly interrupted those comments, but it's very important. The work you will do and for us on this museum is going to be vitally important as we go forward. We also have with us today Congressman Joe Courtney from the 2nd District. He's our guy in the House of Representatives, and we would love to hear some words from Congressman Courtney.
Thank you, Todd. Well, in the House of Lords, they don't have people interrupting speeches. In the House of Commons and the House of Representatives, we're used to that sort of thing. So, and thank you, Todd, for organizing this event. And Barbara, this really is still a treasure in the center of New London, and it's going to be really exciting to see the spotlight even stronger on this great structure that we have here. And as someone who did practice law for 25 years and did a lot of real estate closings, I realized we're really here not for speeches, but to watch those folks sign the documents. So I'm going to be extremely short and to the point here, which is John Johnson was quoted in the paper this morning talking about this is a 15-year journey that took us to this day here today. And I frankly want to take a moment just to recognize my predecessor, Rob Simmons, Senator Blumenthal's predecessor, Senator Dodd, and Senator Lieberman, who in the 2004 Coast Guard Authorization Act got the language that designated the New London area for this museum. Admiral Thad Allen, Admiral Papp's predecessor, jealously helped us guard that language over the years. But obviously in 2010 when Admiral Papp was sworn in at Fort McNair, and I was honored to be there that day at the change of command ceremony, you know, this project got a turbocharge, and someone whose roots are in this area and whose deep passion for recognizing the Coast Guard's historic role is something that has really driven his term. It's hard to believe that it's coming to an end at the end of May. It seems like it was just yesterday that we were at Fort McNair. But again, whether it's before the shipbuilding caucus on the Hill, or whether it's been in front of committees or just talking to individual members, you know, this project has been uppermost on his agenda during the time that he, again, has distinguished himself in his role. And again, we are so lucky to have had him at this critical time to make sure that this project moved forward. I just returned from a trade mission with a number of tourist destination groups, and Tony Sheridan was part of that group. We have so much to offer in Canada, and when we were visiting with, again, the great maritime heritage, again, just to try and visualize what that destination is going to look like when this museum gets built in terms of enhancing, and the estimates are 750,000 people a year would be coming to this site, again, using military museums across the country as a benchmark. This is just an amazing step forward, and the mayor and his great team deserve so much credit for really making sure that, again, in a tough time, that this project continued to move forward. But lastly, as Admiral Papp has pointed out repeatedly, you know, the history of the Coast Guard, America's First Fleet, deserves to have a museum. Neil McKiernan in my office did a quick search yesterday in terms of, you know, just checking with the Congressional Research Office the number of museums that other branches have. The Army has 62, the Navy has 12, the Marines have 5, and the Air Force has 13. And today the Coast Guard has 0. It is time to change that. And with this execution of this document, with the strong support of Governor Malloy and others, we are going to change that. And it's going to be a good day for this region. It's going to be a good day for our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Congressman Courtney. We appreciate it, your past work and your future work. More to do. There are some other individuals in the audience that I would like to recognize here and for their support for the project. State Senator Andy Maynard is here. in the front row, second row, and Representative Hewitt and Representative Wright are also here. Thank you very much for attending. We have representatives from the City Council in New London and the Board of Education, and we're very fortunate to have mayors and first selectmen from the surrounding communities in attendance also. This truly is a regional effort on our basis here, and we need everyone's support. From the Coast Guard, we have Superintendent Stowe here, Superintendent of the Academy. Thank you very much for being here. And there are a number of folks. Captain Leahy, I think, is from here from the subbase. Thank you for attending. And all the military officers and enlisted people who are here and will be working on this project. In addition, we have the Honorable Judge Lee Cole Chu here. And I know I've seen him around, but we do appreciate having him today. There are two groups of people that started this thing off that we want to make sure we acknowledge. 3 weeks after the announcement of this museum project in April, the First 100 Society had raised $100,000 to go for implementation of plans and designs and other behind-the-scenes stuff. That is essential. The first dollars are essential. Thank you very much to those people who participated in that. Second, we have the Bark Eagle Society, and I please urge you to read the back of your brochure today. That is a group of individuals and who will, from now on, take the message forward and start raising the money that we have to do. And you all can be members of the Bark Eagle Society. These two groups have shown a real personal commitment to the project, and that is key to our success. Speaking of personal commitments, I want to recognize the personal commitments of our 4 signers: Governor Malloy, Admiral Papp, Mayor Finizio, and Jimmy Coleman. First, Governor Malloy has rejuvenated Connecticut's long-standing pledge of financial support for the museum. He's made it a priority in his administration. Thanks to his inspiration and clear direction, the numerous state departments, and there are a lot of them, are very hard at work coordinating the project. His commitment to the Coast Guard Museum and to the City of New London will ensure that this project is a success. Thank you, Governor Malloy. Admiral Papp is retiring this spring after more than 39 years in the Coast Guard, the last 4 as Commandant. He's shown true leadership as Commandant in striving to make the National Coast Guard Museum a reality. Simply put, he wants it to happen. The Coast Guard, as we said before, needs a museum. It has 0 now. It's a glaring omission, and due to the Admiral's personal commitment to the museum and inspired by his love of the Coast Guard and the men and women that comprise its ranks, he is motivated to make this happen. Thank you, Admiral Papp, and when you retire, we hope to see you a lot more in the area. Thank you. Now, while we've already heard from Mayor Finizio, I want to make sure everybody understands that we're very fortunate to have had him leading the efforts over the last 2 years. We can all have a vision for what we want the Coast Guard Museum to look like and to do and portray, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to have a place. And his efforts last year to get that place going are very much appreciated for us. Since then, it was a watershed event for the forward movement of this museum. His staff and himself have been tireless in coordinating the activities behind the scenes since that time. And thank you, Mayor Finizio. And I would say, definitely not lastly, almost firstly, as chairman of the National Coast Guard Museum for the last 15 years, Jimmy Coleman has seen it all, the good times and the bad times. Perseverance is the word that comes to mind. He's been diligent, thoughtful, persistent in his quest to make New London the home of the National Coast Guard Museum. Jimmy, many generations that are yet unborn will reap the benefits of your long service to the cause. Thank you very much for that. We're getting close, I promise you. I would like to ask Governor Malloy to come up and say a few comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to be with everyone today. This is a momentous occasion in a string of momentous occasions in a relatively short period of time over the last 18 months or so that move us that much closer. And then there'll be another occasion in not so many days with the transference of property rights. And clearly the state has made its commitment of $20 million towards this project. We've all thanked the individuals most responsible, the mayor, the admiral, and Jimmy. I want to thank our congressional leaders as well as our state representatives and state senators and local officials. But what does this all mean? I think you can boil it down to a couple of things. Number one, an institution, one of our oldest national institutions, the Coast Guard, will finally be properly honored with a museum telling the story of the men and women who have sacrificed on behalf of us all. And it is high time that we mark that occasion, or all of those occasions, with a museum that speaks to the history of the Coast Guard and all of the work which it has carried out. I mentioned, after I heard my friend Dick Blumenthal promise to go fight for money, I was reminded that, and the reference the mayor made to John Adams, this might be helpful, Dick. The history of earmarks is as follows. The first earmark ever made was at the behest of John Adams, and it was to build a lighthouse in Boston Harbor. Well, this in some ways will be our lighthouse, bringing people to New London, bringing people to the surrounding communities, enlivening the cultural and history of this community and its surrounding communities. This is our real opportunity to take our place back where it really should be, as a forerunner of the nation before it was a nation, as a driving force in the development of the nation. Washington routinely referred to Connecticut as the provision state without which the war could not have been won. It's on its way to Stamford. You know, as we sit here, we can look across to a monument marking one Revolutionary War battle and encampment and fort. We could take a stroll not so very far from here and see Fort Trumbull. We could understand the history of New London and the contributions of the folks who lived in this part of our state, as well as this state's commitment to the Coast Guard. This museum will mark that unbelievable relationship between Connecticut and the Coast Guard, the place where people came to learn their craft. It is not just the state that gave rise to Admiral Papp's great career, but it is the state that embraced this institution to its bosom and fought with it and fought hard to make sure that it would be the institution it is. So this is, in so many ways, an elongated celebration. There'll be a property transfer. There'll be a groundbreaking. There'll be a ribbon cutting, all of which will lead to the mere fact that we are finally doing what we should have done as a nation a long time ago, and to honor the men and the women of the Coast Guard. And we participate in that today. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, Governor Malloy. We appreciate that. Admiral Papp, would you please say a few words?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
ladies and gentlemen, all the officials that have assembled here, and particularly to my Coast Guard shipmates, thanks for being here this morning. There are a couple that did not get mentioned. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Rear Admiral Steve Poulin, who has been the guy who's been doing all the work for me, for the Coast Guard side. He's been a tremendous asset, he's a tremendous leader, and he's going to be around for a few more years as well on active duty, and I know he'll carry this forward. And then Captain Wes Pulver, the commanding officer, Eagle. Almost the best job on the Coast Guard. I used to think it was the best job on the Coast Guard, and I've been convinced that I have now the best job on the Coast Guard. But Eagle's going to be a main attraction over here for many months of the year, and will be a draw as well, and I wanted to make sure that he got recognized. So last November, I was sitting in Starbucks drinking coffee and thinking about New London. And you might say, well, what's so unusual about that? Well, it was in a train station. And actually the room did not look too dissimilar than this. The Starbucks was about half the size of this room, but it looked very similar. They had turned it into what amounts to a typical Starbucks. And I was watching trains come in, and as I looked over towards the waterfront, there were ferries coming in. Buses were pulling up and carrying people away. And I was in Malmö, Sweden. The entire waterfront there is beautiful and magnificent. And there are buildings there that are 400, 500, 600 years old that have been maintained and restored. Mixed in amongst them is modern architecture because people have been attracted down to the waterfront. And the ferries run back across the Øresund over to Denmark and back. The trains are coming in from all over the country. The Starbucks was filled with people. In fact, it took us forever to get our coffee. But we sat there and we said, why not New London? We went to a museum. Now, it was the Industrial Museum of Sweden, but it was packed with people, interactive displays, families coming in there with their children and spending the entire day. They had a submarine that was produced in Sweden that was up on the land, and people were going through it. There was, now I would call it a fort that had been fully restored. They called it a castle. It's about 500 years old. But I saw all these similarities, all these natural resources and things that New London has that Malmö, Sweden had. And I said, why can't we do the same thing? Where are the families? And I think what it boils down to is we need that one central attraction, that museum. A modern building built within all that New London has to offer here, these historic buildings that someday will be restored and will be beautiful, and there will be the shops and the restaurants and the cafes, all those things that I saw in Malmö that I've seen in a dozen other seaport locations across the world as I've traveled. Why not New London? Well, it's going to be New London. I'm confident of that. And it's going to be... And it's going to be because of many of the people who are assembled here today. I take no credit for this. I'll take credit for one thing, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But this started a long time ago. I just needed the decision to say we're going to press ahead and take a little bit of a risk position. And we're happy to do that. But Todd and Barbara, thanks for maintaining this beautiful piece of architecture in this city. I remember as a kid... I remember as a kid standing up at the head of State Street, or visiting my father in his office at the state's attorney's office, or as a cadet standing out here on the platform, and always loving this building. And I've seen it go through a lot of renovations and other things over the years. This will be central to what the vision that I think we all have for this area of the city. So thanks for sticking with it over the years and keeping it going, because there's going to be a connection. I just know there is. And it'd make a nice Starbucks over there. I don't know, does New London have a Starbucks? Well, it's about time. I hope the Ranowskis are here. Oh, great. Thank you so much for your... We're proud to be connected with you. You represent the maritime industry, the history, the heritage of this region, and so it's going to be a great partnership, and we're going to love being next door to your property. My 3 elected officials, Connecticut resident, my own representative, Mr. Courtney, my senator, Senator Blumenthal, and my governor, Governor Malloy. And I hope there's probably somebody here from Senator Murphy's office. Thanks to them as well, but thanks for all your support and, Governor, your commitment. $20 million is a commitment. You are committed. And then Mayor Finizio, what a great partner as well. Thanks for your leadership and your determination, which started, I think, 3.5 years ago in a visit down to Washington. I was so grateful you came down, and we sort of kicked this idea around, and it's been full speed ever since, so thank you for your commitment. And then finally, the National Coast Guard Museum Association, so ably represented by Jimmy Coleman. We recently, the Department of Defense has an award called the Spirit of Hope Award, which is named for Bob Hope, for people who have done great things for the armed services. Even if he did not get this museum completed, he would deserve it for all the effort that he's given the Coast Guard over the years. So we're really proud to work with you. Thanks, Jimmy. So here's the reason I want it built. And Todd was exactly right. It's my love for the men and women of the United States Coast Guard. You know, yesterday was the 62nd anniversary of one of the most tremendous rescues the Coast Guard ever conducted. BM-1, Boatswain Mate First Class Bernie Weber and 3 crew members took a 36-foot wooden lifeboat and went out in a storm on February 18th, 1952, about a month before I was born. A storm so bad it broke a tanker in 2. And they rescued 32 of 33 people off the stern section of the Pendleton. I think it is probably the most exciting and interesting rescue story in the Coast Guard history. That boat, the 36500, is still in existence and is going to be donated to this museum and will be on display there. The co-author of the book, The Finest Hours, which tells the Pendleton story, Michael Tugast, spoke with me the other day, and we have been in negotiations, and he has been in negotiations with Disney, which is going to produce a movie. This is locked in at this point, The Finest Hours, which will tell that story as well, and I'm sure we can work in some way of connecting that in here with this museum, not to mention the fact that I think Disney is probably a very sound corporation that I can't do any fundraising in this position. But I've also reminded recently, because of a series of events in Washington and other places, we dedicated a new Coast Guard headquarters to Douglas A. Monroe, the only recipient of the Medal of Honor in the United States Coast Guard. He earned that recovering Marines off the beach in Guadalcanal during World War II. Put his boat between enemy fire and the Marines that they were trying to evacuate from the beach. He gave his life saving others. His last words were, "Did they get off?" And in those 4 words, he spoke to what the Coast Guard is all about in our ethos. I will protect them. I will defend them. I will save them. I am their shield. He was the shield for the Marines. We know his last words because his best friend, Signalman First Class Ray Evans, was in the boat with him. Ray Evans survived that day, even though that was his 2nd trip to the beach on that particular day, and went on to have a career in the Coast Guard. We recently dedicated the conferencing center in the new Coast Guard headquarters to Ray Evans. So we brought Ray Evans and Douglas Monroe back together again in our headquarters to celebrate our heritage. But even more recently, I traveled out 2 weeks ago to the West Coast to speak at a memorial service for Boatswain Mate Third Class Travis Obendorf, who was mortally injured during a rescue operation up in the Bering Sea off the Coast Guard cutter Weishi. He lingered in a coma for 3 weeks. until he gave up his battle. And I was proud and humbled to go out there and speak at his memorial service. And then just last week, I traveled to Los Angeles to visit the U.S. Attorney's Office to congratulate them for a murder conviction of 2 drug traffickers who killed our own Senior Chief Terrell Horn just a little bit over a year ago. All these people demonstrated selfless service, whether it's Monroe, Evans, Obendorf, or Horn. They are our heritage. They are our people. We love them. We miss them. And they deserve a place where their story can be told, along with Bernie Weber and others from across our history. That is why I want this museum, because we have so many hundreds, so many thousands of dedicated men and women who throughout the years had formed this long blue line of Coast Guardsmen who have done great things for our country, and their story deserves to be told. And what better place to tell it here by the water in New London, Connecticut. It will be done. So thank you very much to everybody. It's a pleasure to be back up here and an honor for me to be the commandant that signs this. Everybody's right. The 30th of May is my relief date. The new commandant has been selected but has not been announced. Would everybody like to know who? I'm not going to tell you. That's the president's prerogative, but we hope it will be soon. But after the 30th of May, I'm going to have some time on my hands. And a lot of that time is going to be devoted to this project for the remainder of my days. So thank you once again, and thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you, Admiral Papp. I don't know how you guys in blue get anything done. I could listen to that guy tell stories all day long. If you 4 gentlemen will get the museum built, Barbara and I will get the Starbucks in here. That's for sure. Finally, I would like to ask Jimmy Coleman, chairman of the National Coast Guard Museum, to come up and say some words.
Sort of ending up this program is a privilege for me, because after all the things we heard, all the support that has been exhibited from every phase of the government and in the city of New London, and the newspaper here, it is just, it will be done. It will be done. And our association, after 15 years, a lot of us have been together that long, we have an opportunity now we can all take advantage of. And look what happened today. With the enthusiasm of our group, we got this great group here today, and I want to point out John Johnson, across the way, John, and our treasurer. And Senator Kathy Cook, who's been living with this longer than all of us. And we have a great lawyer from Boston that has helped straighten things out, Dick Grahn. And Admiral Fagel. So you've heard the commandant, and his support for the museum knows no bounds, absolutely no bounds. And a couple of things that haven't been said is that in order to strengthen our ability to go out there and get the job done, the commandant was able to get some co-chairs, and with Arnold Palmer and with Jim Amos and J.D. Powell and Charlie Gibson. So with that behind us, it's just it's been amazing. And having J.D. Powell's stamp of approval was terrific. And he even went further than that. And he told us that his experience in the Coast Guard really gave him what he needed to be a success in business. And he credits all of his success for the fact what he learned in the Coast Guard. And then, Governor, what you have done for us with giving us Bob Ross to hit for you like Admiral Poulin has done it's been terrific. He has covered the state and all of the different obligations that we have to go through. And as a result of that, the MOA that we're signing today is not just an MOA saying, oh, we like to build a museum. It's an MOA that outlines every aspect of what we need to do to go forward. And it's been approved. It'll be approved by all of us. And that's going to make the job not easy, but it's set it out, and we think we can get the job done. And Commandant, I'm going to be here to see it open. I can tell you that. I'm going nowhere. I've never felt younger. And Mayor Finizio, you have shepherded this thing from the beginning. From the first day, you've got work to get New London totally behind it, and you've done that, and we couldn't have done that without you. And I just want to, again, thank the team, the whole team we have here, and especially our association team for working together and making so much possible. And we're ready for the job. We've got tremendous architects involved, and Gallagher, who's going to be working with the Coast Guard right in Washington. We got a hell of a great project, and we're ready to build it. And we're convinced from Senator Blumenthal's assurance too, we're going to get all that money in the bank. And thank you very much, and I'm thrilled to be here, and it's a great occasion.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you all. And now, let's sign these documents here. Each one of you has to sign each of the 4 documents under your name, over your name. The date is February 19th, in case anyone can't remember. And pass them around. All set? Terrific. Thank you very much. Terrific. Mayor, Admiral, Governor, Jimmy. Can we remain standing while we play the Coast Guard song, Semper Paratus? Okay, a couple of house cleaning notes. Let me just say that at the end here, let me just say that in my experience with nonprofits, you never want to give up an opportunity to make the ask. And I am serious. On the back of your card is a description of the Eagle Society. We need your help, every little individual, and John Johnson is more than happy. If you want to volunteer or donate, please see John Johnson. The second thing is we will have 4 locations for the press for each one of the signers, and after we're done here, I'll tell you where that is, but you people don't care at the moment. And one last comment from Barbara and I. For over 125 years, Union Station has stood on the edge of the river. Pretty soon we will have a new sentinel of the harbor, and that is as it should be. We hope that the Coast Guard Museum reigns for 125 years in the future. Thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate it. It's a great cause. Thank you.